This week we're looking at the complex meaning of the words that we use to describe faith. And for our model, we're going to use Romans chapter 3, verse 3. So let's start out by reading that verse, and then we'll dig into the different words that we use to talk about faith and a lack thereof. So first up, Romans 3:3 from the ESV. What if some were unfaithful? Does their faithlessness nullify the faithfulness of God? So let's start out with the most basic word, the word faith itself. Here we go. Hey pistis. Now the hey there, the eta with the rough breathing mark, is the article. And when we learn vocabulary with nouns, we see them with the article in front of them to give us a quick clue as to their gender, because Greek nouns are gendered. They are either masculine, neuter, or feminine. When we're dealing with things that are like a concept, they tend to be feminine. So hey pistis is a feminine noun, and with the article means the faith. Without the article, just pistis would mean faith, and it goes beyond faith. It means faith, trust, belief, reliance, acceptance, the sort of being in the position of trusting or even faithfulness. So any of those meanings, it has a broad semantic range. Any of those meanings can fall under the rubric of hey pistis, our feminine noun that means the faith. Notice right below it we have ho pistos. So here we've changed the article from the feminine article to the masculine article, ho, and the ending, instead of having an iota sigma, has an omicron sigma. Ho pistos anthropomorphizes the concept of faith. In other words, when we apply it to a person, we use the masculine rather than the feminine. So ho pistos would mean the faithful person or the believer. Frequently we would see it as a participle, ho piston, the one who believes. But ho pistos is the believer. Remove the article, pistos just becomes a believer, a faithful person, a trusting person, a believing person, or even a trustworthy person. So remember, in general, the feminine is describing the concept, and when we use the masculine, we're embodying the concept in a person. Now let's take a look at the negatives of these words. Apistos, feminine noun, means unbelief or disbelief. It's an alpha privative. The alpha attached to the beginning negates the noun and sort of reverses or inverts the meaning. So that simple feminine, we had pistis meant faith, apistos means unbelief or disbelief. Now, if we turn it into apistia, it becomes unfaithfulness, untrusting, unbelieving, disbelief, or even an untrustworthiness. Now, what if we masculinize it? Apistos is an unbeliever, an untrusting person, or an untrustworthy person. The last two words we're going to look at are verbs. So if we get out of the nouns and into the verbs, pistuo means I believe, I trust, I have faith in, or I rely on. And apistuo, again, just simply negating it, means I do not believe, I do not trust, or it can mean the action of being unfaithful. So interestingly, the secular Greek usage of all these words are not different in any way to their use in the New Testament. So there's no uniqueness in the New Testament usage of this complex of words. What makes them different is the context in which they're used and the subjects and objects involved. When we're talking about faith in Jesus, reliance on Jesus, or faith in God, belief in God, the only thing that makes it stand out from secular usage is the subjects and objects involved. So now let's go back and take a look at Romans 3:3 and see some of our words that we've just looked at in in action and see how it fits. So the first part, tigar, for what? So it's introducing, like what we would do in a conversation. What then? Should this, and that mean this and that? Right? Like we introduce the question. For what? And then he says, now this is an aorist form of the verb for unfaithfulness. Now this is an aorist form of the verb for unfaithfulness. Hepisteson tines, if some were unfaithful or if some disbelieved. Right? Those are the sort of the two ways we can take that verb. Were unfaithful or disbelieved. It's an aorist, so I kind of like disbelieved a little better to capture the time aspect, but sort of the meaning aspect is deeper in were unfaithful. So for what? If some were unfaithful, then we get to the next part. Me he apistia auton tein piston to theu katargese. So the me at the beginning is really important. It's the negation that we tend to use with non-indicative moods. But the verb in our sentence, the last word, katargese, is in the indicative mood. It's a future active indicative third person singular. And what the me is signaling is a rhetorical question with the expected answer of no. In other words, he's asking a question that he doesn't expect you to answer. The answer is built in with this may. This is a question that should be assumed the answer is no. So what is the question? He apistia auton, their unfaithfulness, and then we get the verb at the end, shall it render ineffectual or nullify, tein piston, the faithfulness to theu of God. So if some people were unfaithful, does their unfaithfulness somehow negate the faithfulness of God? And the may tells us that the expected answer, the built-in answer is no. No, it doesn't. So he says, even if some people have acted in faithless ways, in unbelieving ways, that has no effect on the faithfulness of God. Your faith and my faith are not interconnected. We may believe in the same things, but if one of us breaks faith, it's not an indictment on the faith of the other. And especially not so regarding the faithfulness of God. Human failing, human frailty, human disbelief and unfaithfulness is not a comment or a reflection on the faithfulness of God. So the verb, apisteson, were unfaithful, tells us about a historic reality that happened in the experience of the Roman church. The believers in Rome to whom Paul is writing have seen fellow believers act in unfaithful ways or even become unbelievers, become disbelieving themselves. They could have apostatized, but the sort of rhetorical questions built into the two nouns, he apistia auton, their unfaithfulness, in no way nullifies or renders ineffectual tein piston to theu, the faithfulness of God. Can it nullify it? No. Don't panic that you saw believers act like unbelievers or even become unbelievers. That doesn't mean the faithfulness of God is suspect. You're still okay. God is still on his throne and humans are still sinful, weak, and frail. So there's a broad range of meaning to this complex of words. I won't run through all of them again. You can go back and look at the slides and write those down if you want. And context is largely the guide to how we apply that broad semantic range. When we look at the entire complex, they occur close to 600 times in the New Testament in their various forms. So bust out your computer, bust out your concordance, and go take a look at some of those occurrences and see how sort of widely and broadly these terms are used in the New Testament. Remember, they don't differ much from the secular usages, only in as much as what they're talking about, and you're going to have to examine the range and make some interpretive decisions on how you want to apply those in regard to their usage. Hope that was good for you. If it was, you know what to do with liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that stuff. Leave me some feedback in the comments. And until next time, Karis Kai Arene Humin, grace and peace to you.